HS 1.2. So as I mentioned, parietal cells are the cells of the stomach that produce the acid. But how do you control them? We'll control them through three chemicals, through three hormones: acetylcholine, histamine, and gastrin. Acetylcholine, as we said, acetylcholine, as you know, comes from vagal stimulation. Histamine comes from the ECL cells, which is shown here. And gastrin comes from the G cells of the antrum. Acetylcholine has a direct effect on parietal cells, which are shown here, causing them to secrete acid. Histamine from the ECL cells also has a direct effect on the parietal cells, causing acid secretion. Gastrin also has a direct effect on the parietal cells. However, acetylcholine and gastrin, are different to histamine in that not only do they cause a direct effect on the parietal cells, but they also have an indirect effect by acting on the ECL cells. Acetylcholine and gastrin act on the ECL cells, causing them to secrete more histamine, which then has a direct effect on the parietal cells. So parietal cell control is direct via histamine, acetylcholine, and gastrin, and also indirect via acetylcholine and gastrin, causing histamine-mediated parietal cell acid secretion. Now, so as you can see, the enteric nervous system, vagal stimulation causes acetylcholine release. So let's look at how they actually work. Well, acetylcholine acts on the M3 receptor, muscarinic receptor. Histamine binds to the H2 histamine receptor. And gastrin is a weak agonist of cholecystokinin, so it binds to the cholecystokinin B receptor. Acetylcholine and histamine and gastrin are similar in that they both cause an increase in intracellular calcium by activating the PKC pathway. Whereas histamine is different in the sense that it activates the adenyl cyclase CAMP PKA pathway. So that's how you stimulate parietal cell acid secretion. Now, how do you inhibit it? Well, you inhibit it using somatostatin. Somatostatin is another chemical produced by D cells, which inhibits this whole acid production. So somatostatin inhibits acid production, acid secretion even. It does this in a few ways. Well, it can inhibit histamine release from the ECL cells by binding to the SST somatostatin receptor. It can inhibit gastrin release by binding to the receptor. And it can also act directly on the parietal cell. And what it does on the parietal cell is it inhibits adenyl cyclase. So if you see it, the somatostatin, it doesn't stop acetylcholine and gastrin effect on parietal cell. It acts on the histamine pathway, because histamine is the one that makes the adenyl cyclase. If you inhibit adenyl cyclase, you're not having histamine-mediated acid secretion. And the somatostatin, as I said, it comes from the D cells, those thin cells on the top of the other cells. They're in the corpus, where they're paracrine, because they, not sure what that means, but yeah, they're paracrine. And they're in the antrum as well, which is lower down, where they're endocrine. The ones in the antrum, these both release somatostatin, okay? The ones in the antrum are stimulated by low intraluminal pH. So think about it, right? If you've got a lot of acid secretion, you're going to have low pH. You want to stop that acid secretion. So the low pH will stimulate the antrum D cells to make somatostatin, which will inhibit histamine-mediated acid secretion. The D cells of the corpus are stimulated by acetylcholine neural and hormonal stimulation. Oh, sorry, acetylcholine, inhibits, you can see with the cross here, acetylcholine inhibits the corpus D cells from producing antrim. So essentially what has acetylcholine done so far? Well, acetylcholine has stimulated acid release directly, it's stimulated acid release indirectly, and it's also stimulated acid release very indirectly by inhibiting the D cells of the corpus from producing somatostatin, which inhibits histamine-mediated acid release.